More than 90 million people disappeared from the face of the earth overnight, and no one seems to be able to explain what happened. People take to the streets in protest, as they come up with all sorts of conspiracy theories, like it was aliens or even the government, but few dare to profess that maybe this was God's doing, even though it's all written in the Bible. A man named Rayford is at home remembering his wife, who died a few months ago. His wife was a devout Christian who constantly read the Bible, and warned him 1,000 times that this would happen, but Ray never believed her and always avoided going to church with her. The man works as a pilot, and was in the middle of a flight when the event occurred. His co-pilot was one of the missing, and everyone in the aircraft went crazy. Today he can't stop thinking about his wife telling him, and regrets not being a believer. On the other hand, a billionaire named Jonathan Stonegal, owner of the world's largest social network, Eden, is ready to take advantage of this situation. The man ordered to buy all the biggest networks and media outlets in the world, to make sure he controls all the news coming out. At the same time, a famous news anchor, named Cameron, prepares to interview an expert on everything related to disappearances. The guy mentions that society is collapsing because of the event. Murder, robberies, and even rapes have increased tremendously, to which the expert interrupts him and says that this is a product of all the hysteria and protests around the world, asking people to stay home to restore peace. Cameron says that people are simply concerned about what happened and want to know the truth, but the expert says that right now people need to be protected. Protect them from what? Cameron asks, to which the woman replies that from a second wave of disappearances. Scientists have created predictive models, and everything points to the fact that a second wave could be imminent. Cameron is somewhat skeptical and asks how the models have come to that conclusion, but the expert unfortunately doesn't have the answer. The man gets angry, accusing her of spreading fear among the population, but then they cut the program immediately. Furious, Cameron goes to the office of his boss, Steve, and tells him that he will not interview any pseudo-expert who only seeks to terrify people, but Steve explains that fear is what keeps people calm. Steve argues with Cameron and threatens to terminate his show, but Cameron is calm, as his interviews are the most watched around the world and he knows that no one will dare to fire him. Just then, an assistant enters the office and reveals a breaking news. It turns out that a man named Carpathia was elected as President of the United Nations, even though he didn't even run for office. At the same time, Ray's daughter Chloe goes to her brother's room to remember him, as he is one of the missing. The boy was hugging her when he disappeared, and that left her especially depressed. Chloe goes to bed and dreams that she is going to heaven, but when she asks if her brother is there, the angels tell her he is not. Some time later, Cameron goes to the home of his friend, Dirk, who is a very skilled hacker and has very important information to tell him. Dirk infiltrated the United Nations database, and discovered that all the data is false, and they are using the tragedy that happened to cause fear and misinform the population, so they can control it. They do this through the main channels and media outlets in the world, like the one Cameron works for, and with an in-depth investigation he found that they all obey one man, Jonathan Stonegal. Dirk fears that Jonathan is working with the United Nations, and with all their power and influence they are using the tragedy of the disappearances to promote the creation of a world government, which controls all of humanity under one regime. Later, Chloe goes on a date with Cameron, whom she is dating, and they get to talking about the disappearances. The boy tells her that the news channel he works for recently changed ownership, and the new leader seems to have hidden and very dark intentions for the future of humanity. Suddenly, alert messages start coming in on all the phones, reporting a second wave of disappearances, so Cameron has to go to the studio immediately. On the show, Cameron says that despite the alert for the second wave of disappearances, no one has seen anyone go missing, and there seem to be no reports of this. Upon hearing this, a senator who was on the program claims he saw someone disappear in front of him, but refuses to elaborate. At the same time, the United Nations organizes an emergency conference, where Stonegal mentions that due to this unprecedented event in history, the most sensible thing to do is to dissolve the governments around the world, and form a new world government to manage all the territory, resources, and inhabitants of the planet. Stonegal mentions that the panic that has been generated has had a very negative impact on the stock market, and financial collapse is imminent. For this, Stonegal proposes a solution, presenting a global digital currency called Eden Pay. Fearing that more and more people will continue to disappear, most countries agree to create a world government, with the exception of Israel, which has several problems to solve with the Arab bloc before agreeing to work together. In Steve's office, Cameron talks to his boss about the supposed second wave of disappearances. The guy thinks something is wrong, as if the whole thing is staged, and comments to him that no one has ever reported a missing family member or seen a disappearance in person. Cameron reminds Steve that Stonegal controls all the media, and claims that he is lying about the second wave of disappearances, to cause terror and impose a world government system in which they can control the entire population, but Steve suggests that he not say anything so as not to turn these people against him. At home, Ray looks for his wife's Bible, but to find what he is looking for more quickly he decides to look it up on the internet, discovering that it is no longer there, and everything related to the Bible and its texts has been removed from the net. Seeing this, Ray decides to go to the church his wife used to go to, finding the place completely vandalized. The man walks through what is left of the church, and soon finds Pastor Bruce in one of the pews. Ray talks to the man, trying to find answers, and the pastor explains to him that what happened is written in the Bible and is known as the rapture, where millions of Christians are taken to heaven to meet God. Bruce is a little angry that he wasn't one of the chosen ones to go to heaven, but Ray thinks there must be something else behind it all, so he goes through the rest of the prophecies in the Bible. The man finds out about the prophecy of the 7 years of turmoil, which will begin once Israel signs a peace agreement with their enemies. Bruce says he knows about this prophecy, and reveals that the agreement will be signed by the Antichrist himself. Then, the pastor reveals that he devoted himself to teaching the Bible, but never really fully believed in it, and that is why he is here today and not in heaven. However, Ray assures him that they still have time to go to heaven if they do the right thing. On the other hand, Dirk is at home trying to log into Eden's servers, but they have increased security on their system so he is unsuccessful. The young man gets frustrated, but then an unknown number sends him the password over the phone, gaining access to Eden. After analyzing the system, Dirk calls Cameron to show him what he discovered, revealing that they were right. The Eden Pay system is not only a simple payment system, but has hidden functions to monitor users, in addition to collecting all their data and assigning them social credit points, to impose sanctions and thus have controlled the entire population. It is clear that their plan is to dominate the world, and fearing that these people will get what they want, the mysterious contact who gave Dirk the password to enter the system is willing to give an interview and tell the truth to the whole society. Cameron presents Steve with a report with all of Stonegal's dark plans, saying that the world is in danger, but his boss refuses to show all of this on the air, and tells him that by order of the company's own CEO he is fired. Cameron, Dirk, and one of his assistants, Connor, are on their way to interview Dirk's mystery contact, when they realize they are being followed. They were loading the suitcases into the car, when they see a bomb under the seat, which explodes almost instantly, killing Dirk. Meanwhile, Ray convinces his daughter Chloe to come to the church, even though she is not a believer. Upon arrival, Pastor Bruce begins to tell her about the Bible and the disappearances, explaining every detail of the rapture. Chloe listens to him carefully, but one verse particularly catches her attention. Bruce said that when people disappear and ascend to heaven, those Christians who are already dead will be the first to ascend. With much intrigue, Chloe goes with Cameron to her mother's grave, and after digging they manage to unearth the box. Upon opening it, they expect to find their mother's decomposing body, but only her clothes are there, which means that she was ascended to heaven. Chloe bursts into tears, and for the first time becomes a believer. At the same time, Carpathia, the newly elected president of the United Nations, arrives at the headquarters for a meeting. The man meets with Stonegal and they discuss Eden Pay, and the new world government they will lead together. Soon after, Cameron calls the inventor of Eden Pay, an Israeli named Chim, and tells him the truth about Stonegal, expecting the inventor to side with him. However, Chim immediately informs Carpathia, who asks to have a meeting with Stonegal and Cameron. Later, Cameron meets with the pastor and the others at the church, to learn more about the rapture. Bruce comments that everything that is happening around the world is professed in the Bible, and Ray tells him about the 7-year peace treaty that will be signed between Israel and the other Middle Eastern nations, commenting that Stonegal is most likely the Antichrist, as he will be the one to announce the peace treaty. Later, Cameron shows up for the meeting with Carpathia and Stonegal, but first he gets to talk to Chim. Chim confirms to him that a peace treaty will be proposed between Israel and the Middle East, and that it will last 7 years. Upon hearing this, Cameron gets up to the bathroom and starts to cry, realizing that Pastor Bruce was right, so he starts to be a believer again. After this, Cameron shows up at the United Nations meeting, and exposes all the evidence against Stonegal and his Eden Pay system. Stonegal is shocked, and really doesn't seem to know that Eden Pay hides dozens of obscure functions behind it. At that moment, Carpathia starts talking and says that he was the one who planned all this. Carpathia had planted all the evidence against Stonegal, and it was even him who phoned the password to Dirk, so that it would all come out. The man explains that he did all this to get Stonegal out of the way, making himself the sole successor to everything, which would leave the world government and payment system in charge of him. Finishing his tale, Carpathia shoots Stonegal, then puts the gun away in a guard's holster. Even though everyone saw it, The people at the meeting pretend that it was the guard who actually killed Stoneagle, and this is because the man has so much power, revealing that Carpathia is really the Antichrist. In a final attempt to save the world, Cameron records a video, and with the help of the hacker Connor they play it on all the screens, where the man warns of what happened and assures that Carpathia is the Antichrist. After this, Cameron escapes from the building while Carpathia's men follow him to kill him. The man drives to an airport, where Ray, the pastor, and all the other believers are waiting for him in a small plane, ready to escape. After taking off, they drop from the air a bunch of pamphlets telling the whole truth and referencing the Bible in every sentence, hoping to save mankind from the Antichrist, the end of times. Subscribe and turn on notifications to see more videos like this. Leave a like to help the channel out, and thank you for watching.